what will you exploit seeing those strategy that hijack is supposed to apply? So when you when you see what's going on in theory, how would you approach this spot in practice? Well, should we value bet more ourselves since we expect people to step less, bluffing less on the flop and delay bluffing more often, going for aggressive check raising? Think about it and select the ones that you think are proper exploits. Hey, what's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be studying Multiway together. I know it's a topic that it's not so easy to study, but in paired our training software, we started adding Multiway quizzes which you can use to test your Multiway abilities and learn some basic concepts that are very important for playing in Multiway pots, of course. But before we're going to jump into the action, I just quickly want to recap how Scoop is going for me and how I was able to recover a little bit from the downswing. And I know it's not the biggest downswing in terms of buy-ins, but I think what most people don't understand, and also the message here for you, that you don't need to feel ashamed whether it's 10 buy-ins, 20 buy-ins, or 100 buy-ins. Everyone has its own story, and this is my story that I don't even know whether it's worth 30 buy-ins or 50 or 60 buy-ins. However, it was for me, since I'm a very competitive person, something that was definitely very frustrating for me. And I wanted to share that with you guys. And my message is always, you should not complain about it, or you should not try to see compassion. You should be proactive, speak about it, whether it's making a video and put it on YouTube and share it with others, whether it's having review sessions with other poker players. It doesn't matter. You should be proactive. And in these days where we're somehow imposed to always be strong and there's no place for weakness, and oh, you only have a 30 buy-in downswing, what are you crying about, you little pussy? This is the wrong way, and I think that you should not feel ashamed of sharing it, right? For some people, a 40 buy-in downswing is nothing, and for others a 20 buy-in downswing, it already actually feels quite bad. And for me, to be honest, even if I just drop a few buy-ins on a Sunday, the next day I don't feel so well, because I have very high standards. I always want to win, and I don't care if other people think, oh wow, you only drop 5 buy-ins, what are you crying about? I'm actually not crying. I never cry about it. So I think what you need to understand is also, for your own journey, don't try to fit into society. Don't try to fit into some sort of political correctness, some sort of standard. Oh no, 50 buy-ins, this is not brutal enough. I'm not allowed to share it. I'm not allowed to show myself from a vulnerable place. I'm not allowed to show myself weak. I have to remain strong. No, if you feel like shit, then share it. Because I've read some messages. I mean, to be honest, most of the feedback was pretty good, and the people that are just toxic and negative, I don't care about them anyway, but I try to give it away in a way that you should not feel embarrassed about it. You should not feel head down when you dropped a couple of buy-ins. However, you should not complain about it. You should not cry. Try to be proactive. And if you want to share it in a certain way, and there's someone telling you, is being very negative and tells you that you're a pussy because you dropped 20 buy-ins only, then just move on. Fuck him. Just, those are not the people that you need in your life, right? And I have also experienced 200 buy-in downswings in my career, so I know what it means to have very, very sick downswings. So, but again, it doesn't matter. Whatever feels painful for you, and you need to be proactive. Don't complain, don't cry, but don't listen to the negative and toxic people, all right? Because it doesn't affect me, because I would say I have a very high level of confidence. But if I would think back 5 years ago or 7 years ago, I think it would have got me, and I would really thought, oh, well, I shouldn't be so weak. I should be strong. But I think once you admit, okay, you don't feel well and you feel weak and you don't have the confidence at the moment anymore, then you have the opportunity to get out of it, because what you resist will persist. So far, Scoop is going really well. Quite well for me. I mean, still somehow 10Ks and higher are just are not going so well, but I would get there, I'm pretty sure. I had 3 final tables. And I was not recording them because I really wanted to focus on my game. I'm currently just mainly studying, reviewing, playing. If I have a day off, I have a day off, and also dealing with some other business with Raise Your Edge. So if I might not respond to your message, you might not see me so active on social media at the moment or in Discord as usually, simply because I'm so hungry. I'm so hungry for that scoop title, believe me, guys. All right, let's do some multi-ways studying together today. Here we go. We're going to look into a paired flop today. If you don't know what the software is about, check out the channel. Recently I showed some basic introduction into the software, the way you can use it, the power of it. You get access to preflop ranges. We have a free version. Well, of course we also have a paid version. I think we're still currently on a sale because it's still the early release of the software. I'm not sure at what point this video, I guess today's Saturday, so this video is probably going to be released somewhat next week. But I haven't looked into it. Just check it out. Maybe we're on a sale. Maybe we're not anymore. I really don't know, to be honest. But yeah, it has a lot of functions. I made already 2-3 videos about the preflop section, postflop section. The real power are the preflop ranges that you get access to, and of course the ability to test your skills. We have a lot of quizzes in there for preflop and postflop with explanations. So it does not only show you some sort of GTO solutions. No, I and my team are spending a lot of time to tell you what you should be doing in those spots against the population. So we basically, every answer is being put in by ourselves. And we also write down an explanation why we want to do certain things and how it should look in theory. So we basically want to give you an approach of you understanding what you're supposed to do in theory, but how you should react or how you should play this spot in real life. All right, let's start with the multi-way quiz. So what frequency is using? So we basically play from middle position. We have 40 big blinds, hijack calls, 100 big blinds, big blind calls, 100 big blinds as well. So effectively 40 big blinds. So what frequency, only small sizing we're supposed to. I did this quiz 2 weeks ago. I'm probably going to do better in this quiz since I created it. But I still have to think about it. I think a common misconception is that most people check too much. We definitely have more jack-X than hijack because he's going to be 3-betting hands like king jack, queen jack, jack 9 as a bluff, some pocket tens type of hands. He doesn't have all the overpairs, and the big blind has a lot of trash. So I would go with actually 50% of the time a small sizing. I see players here and also in my coaching sessions, they always want to check always. We have to protect our range, we have to balance, but you have to understand that you have a shitload of strong hands. Even if you have a king, queen, ace, queen, you always have equity. You have 8, 9 type of hands that you can barrel. Hijack has a lot of suited aces, under pairs that really struggle. And if you have a hand like ace, queen, it's really hard for him to have a jack or 10 because you block a lot of his suited flat calling hands. What are our main bluffs with and of course you should only bet small because otherwise it gets too easy for them to defend against the big sizing. What are our main bluffs with the 30% sizing? Local pocket pairs I think are really good to fold out hijacks, stronger pairs, protect equity against the big blind. I don't think we should be... Also multi-way, you either want to have a lot of fold equity right away. So with a hand like pocket deuces, you start generating a lot of fold equity against hijacks, pocket threes, pocket sixes, pocket sevens. And big blind, if he folds king 5 off, it's also a good outcome because with the additional 10 as being a counterfeit out, folding the big blind has more equity with those king 5, king 6 off type of hands or suited. However, we should be equity driven, and I think the low pocket pairs are fine as well. I don't think you should be betting because ace 8 blocks exactly the hands we're trying to fold out. Here you find also an explanation. And this also really much applies on a lot of other multi-way spots. Like when you study multi-way and you need either a lot of RAM on your computer or you need a server where you can run those sims because these game trees are insanely large. They can be 50, 60, 100, 150 gigabytes big, and some of the sims, they need 1 or 2 days to run until you have an accurate result. So it's not just Pio 2, 3, 5 minutes you have a hand and you can check the next one. No, actually it takes you 1 or 2 days until to get a really accurate result for one spot. So yeah, we want to be having good blockers when we bet multi-way, or we want to bluff with immediate equity. And also with ace 7 or ace 8, if our opponent has ace jack, we are dead, right? Or if it's king jack, we have very little equity. We have no outs. The added benefit of bluffing with a hand like deuces, 3s, or 4s is if our opponent has a jack or a 10, we have 2 outs. So we have a little bit of extra equity if called. Which value hands benefit the most from checking? I think aces. I think kings wants to bet. I think it benefits a little bit more from protecting against ace highs. I think aces should be checking, and ace 10, king 10, queen 10. Here we go. I mean, aces, don't get me wrong, but if you're in an environment, if you think your opponents, they can be quite aggressive, then we want to be checking aces. Kings, protecting against king queens, protecting against ace queens, makes a little bit more sense. However, the differences you have to understand here are very, very marginal between aces and kings. Both are fine as bet, both are fine as check. However, checking is a tiny bit better with aces than with kings. How wide is villain? Maybe I'll zoom in a bit. How wide is villain in the hijack position supposed to step with a 30% sizing against our check? So this is something that I consider as really being underbluffed. Across a lot of different board textures, you will see that the hijack is supposed to be stepping a lot. I would have, yeah, I'm going with 60. So the reason why he wants to step so wide, that our checking range, we still have a lot of dead hands like suited aces, under pairs, 7s, 6s that really struggle against the bet or even then a follow-up bet. And again, for him, it's just about, he doesn't bet big, right? And as I said, we still have the equity advantage. However, you should be careful against the way population plays. This is just now from a theoretical standpoint. And that's why I'm telling you this, that some players check their entire range. However, if they check their entire range, it kind of equalizes each other. Yes, they will have more often aces or kings or queen jack and ace jack. But on the other side, they will more often also have pocket deuces or pocket 6s or pocket 3s that they're supposed to be bluffing with. Or let's say an ace deuce with backdoor clubs or whatever that in GTO they're supposed to be bluffing with. So a lot of the hands that actually want to start check folding are still in the range that actually want to start betting. So you're going to be running more often to better hands, but on the other side, you're also gonna be targeting more of these dead hands. So at the end, you're gonna have the same amount of fold equity. And the reason why hijack can also bet that often is that he doesn't have too much he's not flatting offsuited hands. He's not flatting too many suited aces. So we, for example, we have more suited aces, right? We have a6 suited, a7 suited. Hijack, usually you shouldn't be flatting those, or you should be 3-betting those. So he has less nutted hands, and you really need to focus only on equity. He has more equity-driven hands. So he has a lot of king 10s, queen 10s, still some trips, of course, king queens, ace queens, king 9 suited, all these type of hands that always connect with this board, and this allows him to put a small bet, right? And he has very little of absolute garbage on this board. If he would start flatting, all suited aces and all pairs, then betting becomes very dangerous because he gets very susceptible against check raises. And then there would be a new equilibrium where, according to GTO would tell him, hey, listen, you have to slow down a little bit because your overall range has not enough equity to have such a high betting frequency, right? But the moment he has less trash and he connects quite well with this board, he can start betting quite a lot. And of course, there's still big blind in play, but you shouldn't be too worried about big blind, especially on this board. He has a lot of 5-4 off and 6-5 off and king deuce suited. Those are just so many hands that big blind, just because he has a few more jack X combos, suited jack X combos, it's not gonna give him the allowance to be super aggressive or start leading or start. Also, if the hijack bets, big blind is supposed to be calling his entire range pretty much and then wait until the preflop aggressor reacts. What are hijack's main bluffs when stepping the flop? It's pretty much the same here. He flats 3s and 5s, king queen suited and king 9 suited. If he doesn't 3-bet those, once again, equity driven. Same strategy as the PFR. What will your exploit seeing those strategy that hijack is supposed to apply? So when you when you see what's going on in theory, how would you approach this spot in practice? Well, should we value bet more ourselves since we expect people to step less? Bluffing less on the flop and delay bluffing more often? Going for aggressive check raising? Think about it and select the ones that you think are proper exploits. I'm going to go for value bet more ourselves, bluffing less on the flop and delay bluff more often. Let's see. So here's the thing. People are not going to be stepping close to 60% ever. So therefore, once they check back, they actually have more air in their range. They have more pocket 3s, 4s, and 5s, which then really struggle against delay bets. So their check back range is incredibly vulnerable. And so if you have a hand like Queen 9, it actually makes more sense to go for a check, keep the pot small, get the info that your opponent's range is still quite weak, and then we attack it on the turn and we actually generate more fold equity because he will also start betting some jack X and 10x on the flop. So, and also checking trips or traps or overpairs makes a lot of sense in GTO, where people step aggressively and they put in money with, let's say, 5 to 15% equity only. However, this won't happen in practice, therefore aim for going straight for value and charge their weaker hands and draws. Still, I would pot control over pairs and 10x, but very often go straight for value with my trips and draws and keep barreling those if I improve. Of course, if you see me playing in a high stakes environment, I would be very careful because I know some of the regs might also be studying multi-way, so I try to approach it more from a theoretical standpoint. I don't try to over bluff in these spots and keep it simple, and I don't want to end up being with a shitload of trash hands on the river when I delay bluff too much, right? So I try to keep it simple, but however, on mid stakes and low stakes, where the player pools are very large, you can play these spots very exploitative. And also, I think it helps you to understand once you face barrels here that their range is going to be quite strong and you can make some very good laydowns. What hand should BB raise as a bluff when we c-bet and hijack calls? So when we c-bet and hijack calls, he should certainly start having a raising range. Why should he suddenly now have a raising range? Because when hijack bets, he doesn't have an incentive to raise a jack because he wants us to overcall with a weak hand. He just generates too much fold equity. And therefore, he doesn't really want to raise. And also he has a lot of weak 10x that just want to call. However, when both players call, then he wants to play straightforward, raise his trips, raise his boats, protect against the king queens, right? And yeah, simply raise straight for value. However, he also wants to have some bluffs. And that's a good question here. Scoop is making me tired, man. I think I would go with blockers. Yeah. All right. We got it good. I think the king 9 suited, like here you want to have very strong blockers. 10 deuce, 10-5 suited. You basically want to unblock if we bet and hijack calls. He's going to have a lot of 6s, 7s, 8s, and 9s, right? He's not going to be flatting a lot of deuces, 3s, 4s, 5s, maybe with a very low frequency. So it's better to unblock the immediate folds from him, pocket 9s to pocket 6s. And then you want to, of course, block Jack 10 and pocket tens, which is essential. So what are you doing with, let's say if you have ace king or king queen here? You can't really call. He could be raising with jack 10 already, which would make sense. Even if you have a boat, you block everything, you should just go ahead and raise straight for value. Like if they have a jack, you get it in good, because it's not that they're gonna go crazy. So if they have a jack, they won't go anywhere. You want to get in the money, just play straight for value. But if they have a jack and you slow play and there's like 8-9 run out or queen 10 or a queen king run out, then it's not going to be good for you. So the board is still quite dynamic, so you want to be raising straightforward and not let action killers deny your setup. It's a tricky spot. It needs some courage. And it needs also a little bit of visualization to understand how wide the ranges still can be in this spot, that they still have a lot of gutters and straight draws and over. I mean, if I bet here and this guy calls in the big blind raise, man, like I hate my life with my overpair. I'm probably folding. And also with the queen 10, king 10, we also block strong jack X, right? We block the queen jack and king jack, which is important. And we block queen, jack 10 and jack pocket 10s, as I already mentioned. And with 10 deuce, 10-5, we unblock the folding range. 10-8 wouldn't be so good because we don't block good jacks and we also block the folding range. So that's why these are the combos. If you want to consider bluffing, you should be bluffing with. Once again, you should of course only do it with versus regulars. If there's a recreational and he has an ace 10, he's like, vamos, let's go, 40 big blinds, whatever, let's see what he has, right? So you should only apply it against thinking players, against regulars. And I think a pretty good spot to bluff on the flop. I think you will generate quite some fold equity. How wide is villain supposed to barrel this card with a small sizing only? So the 7 in clubs improves his 8-9s. He's gonna probably be stepping all 8-9s, whereas we're gonna be c-betting them, checking some. So I think it's a better card for him. Also, suited card will give him more backdoor flush draws. We're gonna be betting some backdoor flush draws, but he's stabbing probably all of his backdoor flush draws. So it's always a good card for him. So I would say either 40 or 60. Still, our range is still relatively strong, so once we call, we should be a little bit more careful. I go with 40. Oh, wow. All right. I actually would have thought it's a really good card, but okay. So after villain calls the flop, things get a little trickier. We can't just go ahead and keep barreling everything. Apart from a few trips and boats, we have lots of hands that don't want to bet 3 streets. Yeah, okay, it makes sense. So as I mentioned at the beginning, when we check and villain bets and then we call, I mean, we're not going to have 3s, 4s, 5s in our range anymore. It's like 10x, some traps, ace. So now we don't have any air in our range anymore. So also betting big for villain is also not very attractive, since we're going to have a very easy time to defend according. We're going to call our over pairs, we're going to call our trips, we're going to call our 10x in clubs, we're going to call our ace queen, ace king club. It's really hard to bluff with a big sizing. So now probably the equities are somewhat even. Yeah, and villain is just supposed to be betting only 20%. 20% probably only his high equity draws, like if he picked up flush draw, straight draw, keep barreling his king queens, keep barreling his flush draws, keep betting his jack X, his boats, his straights, and that's pretty much it. Now on the turn, you really want to have high equity if you want to barrel. Yeah, so I would say, what are the main hands we're barreling as a bluff? King, queen, and nut flush draws. Ace, queen, ace, king without flush draw. In case he flats ace, king, which makes sometimes sense, or even in GTO wants to flat sometimes ace, king. Ace, queen for sure is in his range. Yeah, deuces and fours with one club. Yeah, I mean, this is probably a hand that sometimes still wants to bluff if he has at least lower pairs. This is very advanced GTO shit, so let's say if there's the queen and clubs on the river and we check again and hijack fires, most players wouldn't have any bluffs at all on this run out, or 8 in clubs, 9 in clubs, king in clubs, queen in clubs, ace in clubs. So then hijack needs to find those low club hands blocking ace deuce, ace 3, ace 4 in clubs, and attack his king 10s, queen 10s, 10 9s, over pairs. It's gonna work out. We're gonna fall. I mean, if I have, let's say, pocket kings, I check and the river is the 9 in clubs and he bets again. Even if I have the king in clubs, like, we don't beat anything, right? And what can you really bluff? So you get your opponent, and we have to fold. Like, even though our opponent is folding deuces, 3s, 4s, 5s with one club, we have to fold because he still has so many value hands. But this is, of course, something where I would say if you don't really see it in game and you don't understand the ranges, then just stay away from it. But I think if you understand why and when to execute on that, then go ahead and do it. I think it's on good runners, it works out pretty well. If we don't have a trap, if we don't have, let's say, Jack 10 or jacks or 10s ourselves, it's going to be a very, very, even if we have king or queen jack suited, right, and the turn is river is king and clubs and he bets again, like, you can fold your trips, right? And I think very good opponents would fold their trips on the river against a triple barrel here. All right, we got it. Of course, I created this quiz myself a couple of weeks ago, so I know what to do in those spots, but it's always good to refresh that. Now tomorrow is Sunday, so especially before a grind, as you've seen, some of the questions I wasn't 100% sure. Even found the leak for barreling the turn. I would have definitely been a bit more aggressive. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you want to know more about paired, check in the description. We're going to put the links in there. Not sure if we're still on the sale. Check it out, and then I wish you good luck in the grind. And if you have a question, just drop it in the comments, and then see you guys next time. Stay healthy, stay strong, and good luck.